What happens when royalty meets reality television and the crown collapses in just 36 seconds? One comment turned a friendly interview into a tense confrontation that ended with security escorting a former duchess off the set. Before getting into this moment, the host reminded viewers to subscribe as they exposed the darker side of royalty. Entitled Celebrities and Behavior the cameras usually never reveal. They claimed to have raw footage that wasn't meant to be seen and urged viewers to share their thoughts on the incident. Jon Stewart's late-night show has long been known for asking tough, straightforward questions other hosts tend to avoid. His reputation is built on honesty, calling out hypocrisy, and treating every guest the same whether Hollywood royalty or actual royalty. That made this interview especially volatile. When Meghan Markle walked onto the set, the audience applauded. She smiled, waved, and sat across from Jon with the confidence of someone long used to the spotlight. She was there to promote her new lifestyle brand, focused on authenticity and realness. By the end of the night, the irony of that message would be obvious. Jon began warmly, as usual. He greeted her, complimented her outfit, and started with easy questions about her business. Meghan answered smoothly and precisely, clearly sticking to prepared talking points. Everything seemed normal at first, so tell us about this new brand, Jon asked with genuine curiosity. What made you want to start this venture? Meghan launched into her explanation. She said she had always been passionate about helping people live their best lives and that her brand aimed to bring luxury and wellness to everyone. Not just the privileged few, democratizing elegance, as she put it. Jon nodded. But anyone familiar with him could see he wasn't letting that phrase pass without follow-up. Democratizing elegance, he repeated with a slight smile. What does that actually mean in practical terms? Meghan shifted in her seat. She said it meant making high-quality products accessible to regular people, products she personally used and trusted. Jon glanced at his notes. These products retail for how much? I'm seeing prices from $80 for a candle to $500 for a bathrobe. How is that accessible to regular people? The room went silent. Meghan's smile tightened. She argued that quality costs money and that they ensured ethical sourcing and sustainable production. Jon kept his tone friendly but pointed out that the average American income was around $70,000 before taxes. He asked where a $500 bathrobe fit into the reality of people choosing between luxury items and necessities. Meghan said he was oversimplifying and that people invest in what they value. Jon repeated the word invest, noting that luxury marketing often convinces people they need expensive items for self-care. Then he moved on. Jon brought up Meghan's recent comments about wanting privacy while also signing major streaming deals, launching a public brand, and doing interviews. He asked how she reconciled wanting privacy with seeking publicity. Meghan said those were different things and that she could have personal boundaries while doing professional work. Jon agreed, but pointed out that most people don't hold press conferences asking for privacy, or do tell-all interviews while asking to be left alone. He asked if she understood why that seemed contradictory. Meghan accused him of twisting her words. Jon calmly held up an article and said he was quoting her directly, not creating a narrative. He said the show was about having conversations on complicated topics. The audience stayed silent as tension built. Meghan said she expected a respectful discussion and thought Jon was different. But he was acting like journalists who tried to tear her down. Jon replied that he wasn't tearing her down, he was trying to understand her perspective. But the questions were fair ones many people had raised. Meghan responded sarcastically. Referring to trolls and haters, Jon clarified that he meant regular viewers trying to reconcile her actions with her statements. He said they deserved clarity. Meghan asked if Jon knew what it was like to have the world scrutinize everything. Jon admitted he didn't, but said being held accountable was part of being a public figure. He added that one can't seek a platform without accepting the scrutiny that comes with it. Meghan called the interview an ambush. Jon noted he had sent her team the list of topics and that nothing was a surprise. She argued the tone was biased and that he had made up his mind. Jon replied that he hadn't, and that her defensiveness wasn't helping. He said if the questions felt unfair, that was something worth examining. Her voice rose. She insisted she had every reason to be defensive because he was attacking her on national television. Jon firmly replied that he was interviewing her, not attacking her, and that if she couldn't tell the difference between tough questions and attacks, that said more about her than about him. The audience gasped. Meghan's face reddened. "How dare you?" she said quietly, her voice trembling with anger. "How dare you sit there and lecture me about accountability when you're blindsiding me with gotcha questions?" "They're not gotcha questions," Jon insisted. "They're basic questions about things you've said publicly. If you can't answer them, that's fine, but don't blame me for asking." Meghan stood abruptly, her microphone pack tugging at her dress. "You know what? I don't have to sit here and take this. I agreed to come on this show as a courtesy to talk about my business, not to be interrogated like a criminal." "Sit down, please," Jon said, calm but firm. "We're in the middle of a conversation." "No," Meghan said sharply. "This conversation is over. You're clearly not interested in hearing what I actually have to say. You just want to make me look bad." "I want you to answer straightforward questions," Jon replied. "That's literally my job. And if you walk off this set right now, you'll make yourself look bad. I'm giving you a chance to explain yourself." "I don't need to explain myself to you or anyone else," Meghan snapped. "I'm done being judged by people who have no idea what I've been through." Jon's expression hardened slightly. "Here's the thing. You're asking people to buy your products, support your brand, listen to your voice. They have every right to ask questions. They have every right to expect consistency between your words and actions. And if you can't handle that, maybe you shouldn't be in the public eye." That did it. Meghan's face twisted with rage. "You entitled, arrogant man," she hissed. "You sit in your comfortable studio playing the everyman, pretending you're some champion of truth. But you're just another privileged white man who can't stand to see a woman, especially a woman of color, succeed on her own terms." The audience gasped again, louder this time. Jon's expression didn't change, but there was a flash of anger in his eyes. "Wow," he said quietly. "So that's where we're going with this. You're going to play the race card and the gender card because you don't like being asked questions?" "It's not a card," Meghan shot back. "It's reality. You wouldn't be asking a white male guest these kinds of aggressive questions." "Yes, I absolutely would," Jon said, his voice rising for the first time. "I've asked these exact kinds of questions to countless guests of every race, gender, and background. That's what I do. I don't give anyone a free pass just because of who they are. That's called integrity. Integrity." Meghan laughed bitterly. "You don't know the meaning of the word. You're a bully with a microphone and someone who can't handle the slightest bit of pushback," Jon countered. "You want everyone to treat you like royalty, to bow down and accept everything you say without question. But that's not how the real world works. The real world—" Meghan's voice was shrill. "What do you know about the real world? You've been famous for decades. You've never had to deal with what I've dealt with." "You're right," Jon said. "I've never married into the British royal family. I've never had that level of privilege and platform. But I've also never complained about it while simultaneously profiting from it." Profiting. Meghan was practically shouting. "I've been traumatized, harassed, driven to the brink by the media and people like you, people like me." Jon repeated slowly. "You mean journalists?" "People who ask questions. Because if that drives you to the brink, you need to seriously reconsider your career choices." Meghan grabbed her purse. "I'm leaving. This is ridiculous." "You're ridiculous." "Go ahead," Jon said, gesturing to the exit. "Walk off. Prove my point. Show everyone watching that you can dish it out but can't take it." "I don't have to prove anything to you," Meghan spat. "No, but you do have to prove something to them," Jon said, pointing to the audience. "These are the regular people you claim to care about. The ones you're selling democratized elegance to. And right now, they're watching you have a meltdown because someone dared to question you." Meghan turned to the audience, eyes wild. "You people don't understand. None of you understand what it's like to be in my position." One audience member shouted back, "We understand you're acting entitled right now." The crowd murmured in agreement. "You don't know me well enough to hate me," Jon replied. "But I understand you're upset. And I hope when you calm down, you'll think about why these questions made you so angry. Because they weren't unreasonable. They just weren't what you wanted to hear." Meghan's face crumpled slightly, and for a moment she looked like she might cry. Then she pulled herself together, lifted her chin, and walked toward the exit with as much dignity as she could muster. Which wasn't much at this point. The security guards followed at a respectful distance as she stormed through the backstage area. The audience sat in stunned silence, unsure if they should applaud or stay quiet. Jon turned back to his desk and sat down heavily. He looked directly into the camera. "Well," he said with a slight smile, "that was something." For everyone at home wondering if that really just happened, yes, it did. Before anyone accused him of ambushing a guest, he clarified, every question had been sent to her team in advance. Every topic was approved. What you just witnessed wasn't me being a bully. It was someone used to controlling the narrative. Realizing she couldn't control this one, he said carefully, "I don't take pleasure in making guests uncomfortable. That's not why I do this job. But I also won't pretend that tough questions are attacks. I won't walk on eggshells because someone has a title, a platform, or a brand to protect. Everyone who sits in that chair gets the same treatment. Rich, poor, famous, unknown. I asked real questions and expect real answers. If that's too much, they probably shouldn't be in the public eye." The audience started to applaud, tentatively at first, then more enthusiastically. Jon continued, "I'm sure we'll hear from her team. There may be statements, accusations, maybe even legal threats. But I stand by every word I said tonight. And I challenge anyone who thinks I was out of line to watch this interview again and tell me what I should have done differently. Should I have let her promote her $500 bathrobes without questioning accessibility claims? Should I have nodded along when she talked about privacy while doing publicity tours? Should I have ignored the contradictions?" He shook his head. "I couldn't do that. I won't do that," Jon said. "Because the moment I start giving people a pass just because of who they are, I've lost my integrity. And that's the one thing I'm not willing to lose." Backstage, Ray's voices could be heard. Meghan was apparently still making her displeasure known to anyone within earshot. The audience exchanged glances, some amused, some shocked, all riveted. Jon glanced toward the noise and smiled slightly. "Sounds like someone's not happy. But you know what? That's okay. It's okay to leave an interview unhappy if the questions were hard. It means something real happened. Something authentic. And isn't that what she claims to be all about?" The stage manager gave Jon a signal they needed to wrap up. "All right, we need to take a quick break," Jon said to the camera. "When we come back, we'll try to get back to our regularly scheduled programming, assuming we don't have any more guests threatening to sue us. Stick around." The lights dimmed for the commercial break and the studio erupted in chatter. Crew members gathered in small groups, replaying what they'd just witnessed. Audience members turned to each other, talking rapidly, some laughing in disbelief, others shaking their heads. Jon stayed at his desk, reviewing his notes. looking remarkably calm for someone who'd just had such a confrontational encounter. A producer approached cautiously. "That was intense," the producer said. "Are we really going to air all of that?" "Every second," Jon confirmed. "Unedited. The truth is the best defense against whatever spin she tries to put on this." "Her team is already calling," the producer reported. "They want the footage killed." Jon looked up sharply. "Absolutely not." She signed the release. She knew what she was getting into. And quite frankly, the public needs to see this. They need to see what happens when someone who's built their brand on being relatable and authentic gets asked to actually be those things. The producer nodded and walked away. Jon turned back to his notes, already thinking about how to frame the rest of the show. In the hallway outside, Meghan was on her phone, her voice carrying despite the closed doors. "I don't care what you have to do," she said. "Get that footage. Threaten them. Sue them. I don't care. That cannot air. Do you understand me? That cannot air." But it was too late. The damage was done not from the questions, but from her reaction to them. She'd shown everyone watching exactly who she was when the mask slipped. And no amount of PR spin could change what people had seen with their own eyes. Back in the studio, the lights came back up. Jon straightened his papers and looked into the camera with that familiar, slightly mischievous grin. "Welcome back," he said. "For those just joining us, you missed quite a show. But don't worry, we'll be replaying that segment extensively, probably for years to come. It's not every day you get to witness someone completely unravel in real time." The audience laughed, the tension breaking slightly. "Now, I know some people are going to say I was too hard on her," Jon continued. "They'll say I should have been more gentle, more deferential. But here's the thing about respect. Real respect means treating someone like an adult who can handle tough questions. Fake respect is pretending their nonsense makes sense just because of their status. I choose real respect every time." He looked down at his desk, then back up at the camera. "And you know what? I hope she watches this back when she calms down. I hope she really listens to the questions I asked and thinks about why they made her so defensive. Because there's something valuable in that discomfort. It's called self-reflection, and based on what we just saw, it's something she desperately needs." The audience applauded again, louder this time. They were firmly on Jon's side, which probably wasn't surprising. He'd kept his cool while she'd lost hers. He'd stayed reasonable while she'd gotten emotional. He'd asked legitimate questions while she'd thrown accusations. In the court of public opinion, this wasn't even close. "All right," Jon said, ready to move on. "Let's try to get through the rest of this show without any more drama. Our next guest is an actual regular person who did something extraordinary, and I promise you, I will not make them cry or threaten to sue me." The audience laughed as Jon launched into the next segment. But everyone knew the Meghan Markle interview would be the only thing anyone remembered from this episode. It would go viral, spawn 1,000 think pieces, and probably define both of their public images for years to come. And in the end, the footage would speak for itself. People would watch and make their own judgments about who was reasonable and who wasn't, who asked fair questions and who overreacted, who kept their composure and who lost it completely. The truth, as Jon had said, was the best defense.